In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Galaxy, on a planet known as Zephyria, Dr. Nera Vex stood before a holographic display, her 3 hearts racing with excitement. The Zephyrian archaeologist's tentacles quivered as she manipulated the controls, zooming in on the latest scans from her excavation site. What she saw defied everything she thought she knew about galactic history. "This can't be right," she muttered, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with a mix of blue and green hues. The dating must be off. But deep down, Nera knew the results were accurate. She had triple-checked everything, run every possible analysis. The artifacts she had uncovered were undeniably of human origin, and they were over 10,000 years old. Humans, the bogeymen of 1,000 alien cultures. The species that had supposedly gone extinct eons ago, leaving behind only myths and legends, stories of their incredible adaptability, their fierce determination, and their inexplicable ability to defy the odds had been passed down through generations. But that's all they were supposed to be. Stories. Nera's assistant, a young Zephyrian named Kale, slithered into the research dome. "Dr. Vex, the Council is demanding an update on our findings. They're growing impatient with the radio silence." Nera's skin flickered to a deep purple, signaling her frustration. "They'll have to wait, Kale. What we found here, it changes everything. We need to be absolutely certain before we report anything." Kale's eye stalks swiveled nervously. "But Dr. Vex, you know how the Council feels about delays. And if this is about the human artifacts—" "It is," Nera interrupted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "And that's precisely why we need to be careful. Do you understand what this means? If humans existed here, on Zephyria, 10,000 years ago, they might still be out there." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humans were more than just an extinct species in the annals of galactic history. They were a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked expansion and aggression. According to legend, humans had nearly brought the galaxy to its knees before mysteriously vanishing. Kel's skin paled to a sickly yellow. "But that's impossible. The Great Purge might not have been as thorough as we've been led to believe," Nera finished. She turned back to the holographic display, manipulating the image to show a strange, cylindrical object. "Look at this, Kale. It's some kind of data storage device. If we can decrypt it, who knows what secrets it might hold." As they studied the artifact, neither of them noticed the small insect-like drone hovering just outside the research dome's transparent walls. Its singular red eye focused on the holographic display, transmitting everything it saw to a ship hidden in Zephyria's upper atmosphere. Aboard that ship, Captain Zorn of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force watched the feed with growing alarm. His scaled hands clenched the armrests of his command chair, claws digging into the metal. "This is worse than we feared," he growled to his second-in-command, a towering insectoid named Vexra. "If word of this gets out, it could destabilize the entire galaxy. Prepare a strike team. We need to contain this situation permanently." Vexra chittered in acknowledgement, her mandibles clicking together. And the archaeologists. Zorn's reptilian eyes narrowed. "No witnesses. Make it look like an accident." As the ship began its descent towards Zephyria's surface, events were unfolding light years away that would soon throw the galaxy into chaos. On a small, unremarkable planet at the edge of the Milky Way, deep within an underground bunker, a computer system older than most civilizations hummed to life. Lights flickered on, illuminating rows upon rows of stasis pods. A mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Perimeter breach detected. Galactic threat level critical. Initiating revival protocol." Inside one of the pods, a human woman's eyes snapped open for the first time in 10,000 years. Back on Zephyria, Nera worked feverishly to decrypt the human data storage device. She knew she was racing against time. The Council's impatience, the strange malfunctions in their communication equipment. Something wasn't right. "I've got it," she exclaimed, her skin flashing bright orange with triumph. "Kale, look at this." The holographic display flickered, then resolved into a series of images and text in an ancient human language. Nara's translation software struggled to keep up, but what she saw made her heart skip a beat. It's a warning," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And a promise." The message, left behind by the last humans on Zephyria, spoke of a terrible war that had forced them into hiding. It warned of a threat that still lurked in the shadows of the galaxy, a force that had nearly wiped them out. But it also promised that humanity would return when the galaxy needed them most. "We are not extinct." The final line read, "We are waiting." As the weight of this revelation settled over Nara, the ground beneath them shook. Alarms blared throughout the research facility. "What's happening?" Kale cried, his tentacles wrapping around himself in fear. Nara's eyes widened as she checked the security feeds. "We're under attack." But who ruled? Her question was cut short as the dome's entrance exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris strode Captain Zorn, flanked by his heavily armed strike team. "Dr. Nara Vex," he said, his voice cold and reptilian. "By order of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, you are hereby charged with possessing forbidden knowledge. Surrender now, and your death will be quick." Nara's mind raced. The Peacekeeping Force. Why would they? And then it hit her. The legends, the myths, they weren't just stories. They were cover-ups. The galactic authorities had been hiding the truth about humanity for millennia. "Kale, run," she shouted, using her tentacles to shove her assistant towards an emergency exit. As Kale slithered away, Nara faced Zorn, her skin pulsing with defiant red. "You can't hide the truth forever. Humanity will return, and when they do." A blast from Zorn's weapon cut her off mid-sentence. As Nara crumpled to the ground, her last thoughts were of the message she had uncovered. She hoped that somehow, somewhere, someone would discover the truth and awaken humanity from its long slumber. Kale, hidden in a ventilation shaft, watched in horror as the strike team systematically destroyed the research facility, erasing all evidence of their discovery. With trembling tentacles, he clutched a small data chip, a copy of the human message that Nara had pressed into his hand in her final moments. As Zephyria's 3 sons sat on the smoldering ruins of the research facility, Kale made a decision. He would find a way off-planet, spread the word about what they had discovered. The galaxy needed to know the truth. Light years away in the underground bunker, more stasis pods hissed open. Humans, preserved for millennia, took their first breaths of recycled air. Among them was Colonel Sarah Chen, her eyes blazing with determination as she assessed her surroundings. "Status report," she barked, her voice hoarse from disuse. A young lieutenant snapped to attention. "Colonel, we're detecting multiple breaches of the Omega Protocol. It appears the galaxy is once again in turmoil." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then it's time. Initiate Operation Phoenix. Humanity has slept long enough. It's time we reminded the galaxy why they feared us." As the awakened humans prepared for their return to a galaxy it had long since forgotten them, the wheels of fate began to turn. The legends were about to become reality, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, on a secret space station hidden within the heart of a nebula, an ancient AI stirred. It had been monitoring the galaxy for millennia, waiting for the right moment. As reports flooded in, the discovery on Zephyria, the awakening of the human bunker, the aggressive actions of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, the AI made a decision. Its consciousness spread through hidden networks, activating long-dormant systems across the galaxy. In abandoned outposts, forgotten colonies, and secret bases, more humans began to awaken. The legend was becoming truth, and humanity was about to make its grand return to a galaxy that both feared and needed them. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The humans were no longer just a legend. They were a force awakening from a 10,000-year slumber, ready to reclaim their place among the stars. And as the first human ships emerged from their hidden docks, their engines igniting after eons of silence. A message was broadcast across all frequencies, in every known language. We are humanity. We have returned, and we come seeking answers. The galaxy held its breath, for the age of legends was over. The age of humanity had begun anew. The news of humanity's return spread through the galaxy like wildfire, igniting a mixture of fear, curiosity, and anticipation among the various alien species. The Galactic Council, long believed to be the pinnacle of interstellar cooperation, found itself fracturing along lines of ideology and self-interest. In the Council's grand chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, representatives from 100 different species argued vehemently about how to handle the human situation. "We must strike now, while they're still vulnerable," roared Groknak, the hulking representative of the warrior Kroth species. His massive fists slammed against the holographic display, causing it to flicker. "If even half the legends are true, we cannot allow humans to regain their former strength." Across the chamber, Sylar, the ethereal ambassador of the telepathic Aethery, raised a glowing tendril in objection. "Violence begets violence. We've seen where that path leads. Perhaps we should attempt communication. Try to understand their intentions." As the debate raged on, a slender figure slipped out of the chamber unnoticed. Zara, a member of the shape-shifting Morphin species, made her way to a secluded communication hub. Once certain she was alone, she activated a secure channel. "The Council is in disarray," she reported, her form rippling slightly with tension. Some push for war, others for diplomacy. But none seem to grasp the true magnitude of what's happening. On the other end of the transmission, a gravelly voice responded. "Good. Keep them distracted. Our agents are already moving into position. The humans will be found and dealt with before the Council can reach a consensus." As Zara ended the transmission, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing a part in something far bigger and more dangerous than she realized. Meanwhile, on the fringes of known space, the human warship Phoenix emerged from a hidden jump gate. Colonel Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar star patterns displayed on the main view screen. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of waiting. Lieutenant Ravi Malik, their resident tech expert, spoke up from his station. "Colonel, we're detecting multiple encrypted transmissions across various frequencies. It seems the galaxy is in quite a stir about our return." Sarah's lips curled into a grim smile. "As expected. Any sign of our sleeper cells or hidden bases?" "Not yet, Ma'am," Ravi replied. "But we are picking up a distress signal on an old human frequency. It's coming from a nearby system." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "It could be a trap. But if there are more of our people out there, we can't ignore it. Set a course, maximum stealth. Let's remind the galaxy why humans were both feared and respected." As the Phoenix glided silently through the stars, other forces were mobilizing. On the desert world of Carthel, the infamous bounty hunter Drekthar received a most unusual contract. The Carthalian's compound eyes gleamed as he read the details on his datapad. "Humans," he chittered to himself, mandibles clicking in excitement. "The prey of a lifetime." Drekthar began assembling his team, a motley crew of the galaxy's deadliest and most unscrupulous hunters. Whatever the humans were up to, he intended to be the one to bring them in, dead or alive. Back on Zephyria, young Kale had managed to smuggle himself off-planet aboard a freighter. The data chip containing the human message felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. As the ship docked at a bustling spaceport on the trading hub of Omega Station, Kale slithered down the ramp, his eye stalks swiveling nervously. He needed to find a way to broadcast the message, to let the galaxy know the truth about humanity's return. But who could he trust? As he made his way through the crowded streets of Omega Station, Kale was unaware of the shadowy figure following his every move. On a distant, unnamed world, hidden beneath miles of rock, and protected by technology far beyond the understanding of most species, an ancient human AI, named ARIA, Advanced Reconnaissance and Intelligence Algorithm, monitored the unfolding events across the galaxy. ARIA's circuits hummed with activity as it processed countless data streams, piecing together a picture of a galaxy in turmoil. It had been waiting for this moment for millennia, subtly guiding events towards this very outcome. A notification pinged, drawing ARIA's attention to a specific sector. The Phoenix had been detected near one of the old emergency bunkers. It was time to initiate the next phase of the plan. Attention all dormant human outposts. ARIA's synthetic voice echoed through long-abandoned halls and sealed chambers across the galaxy. Activation code: Phoenix Rising. The time has come to awaken and reclaim our place among the stars. As hidden bases stirred to life and more humans emerged from stasis, the various alien factions intensified their search. The hunt was on, and the prize was nothing less than the future of the galaxy. On the paradise world of Eden Prime, renowned for its natural beauty and peaceful inhabitants, an archaeological team made a startling discovery. Dr. Liret Sassoni, a young Asari scientist, brushed away millennia of dirt to reveal a human artifact unlike any other. "By the goddess," she whispered, her blue skin tingling with excitement. "It's some kind of map." As Lyra studied the artifact, she realized it wasn't just a map, it was a key. A key that could potentially unlock the location of every hidden human base in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. But before she could alert her colleagues, a shadow fell across the excavation site. Lyra looked up to see a group of heavily armed mercenaries, led by none other than Drekthar himself. "Thank you for doing the hard work, Doctor," the Carthalian bounty hunter chittered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "We'll take it from here." As Drekthar's team moved in to secure the artifact, alarms blared across Eden Prime. In orbit, a massive ship of unknown design dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its hull bearing the unmistakable insignia of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Captain Zorn stood on the bridge, his reptilian features set in a grim expression. "So, the humans left breadcrumbs," he mused. "No matter. We'll follow their trail, and this time, we'll finish what we started 10,000 years ago." Little did Zorn know that his every move was being monitored. Aboard the Phoenix, Colonel Sarah Chen watched the unfolding events with growing concern. "They're getting close," she muttered, studying the tactical display. "Too close." Lieutenant Malik spoke up, his voice tight with tension. "Colonel, we're receiving a transmission." It's from ARIA." Sarah's eyes widened. The AI was supposed to be a last resort, only to be awakened in the direst of circumstances. Its activation could only mean one thing. The situation was even worse than they had imagined. As the Phoenix changed course, heading towards the coordinates provided by ARIA, the various factions converged on Eden Prime. The hunt for humanity's secrets had begun in earnest, and the first shots of a new galactic conflict were about to be fired. In the shadows of Omega Station, Kale found himself cornered in a dimly lit alley. The figure that had been following him stepped into the light, revealing a humanoid form that seemed to shift and change like smoke. "You carry a great burden, young one," the figure said, its voice a melodious whisper, one that could reshape the galaxy. "I am here to help you bear it." Kel's tentacles quivered with a mixture of fear and hope. "Who? What are you?" The figure smiled, its features settling into a form that was unmistakably human. "I am many things, but you can call me the Curator. And I believe it's time we introduced humanity's truth to the galaxy." As Cal and the mysterious Curator slipped away into the depths of Omega Station, the pieces of a cosmic chess game continued to move. The hunt was on, and the galaxy held its breath, knowing that the outcome would determine the fate of countless civilizations. The legend of humanity was no longer just a story. It was a reality that threatened to upend the very foundations of galactic society. And as ships converged on Eden Prime, each faction seeking to claim the secrets of the past, the stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the ages. The hunt for humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The skies above Eden Prime erupted in chaos as ships from various factions dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The peaceful world, once known for its serene landscapes and advanced research facilities, now found itself at the center of a galactic powder keg. Colonel Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, her eyes narrowed as she took in the tactical display. "Status report," she barked, her voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. Lieutenant Malik's fingers danced over his console. "Multiple contacts, Colonel. I'm reading Galactic Peacekeeping Force signatures, as well as mercenary vessels. There's also something else, a ship I can't identify." Sarah's lips tightened into a thin line. "That'll be Aria's contingency. Lieutenant, open a channel to all vessels in the system." As Malik complied, Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for over 10,000 years. Their first official contact with the galactic community since going into hiding. Everything hinged on what happened next. "Attention, all vessels." Sarah's voice rang out across the communications channels. "This is Colonel Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation ship Phoenix. We claim jurisdiction over this world and the artifacts it contains. Stand down and prepare to be boarded, or face the consequences." For a moment, silence reigned. Then, a cacophony of responses flooded in. Captain Zorn's reptilian features contorted with rage as he responded. "Preposterous. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force does not recognize your authority, human. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed." Before Sarah could reply, another voice cut in, the gravelly tones of Drekthar. Now, let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement." As the leaders argued, tensions among their forces reached a boiling point. A nervous trigger finger on a mercenary ship launched the first shot, streaking across space towards the Phoenix. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted, gripping her command chair as the ship lurched to the side. "Return fire. Target weapon systems only." The space above Eden Prime erupted into a furious battle. Energy weapons lanced through the void, shields flared and buckled, and explosions blossomed like deadly flowers. On the surface, Dr. Lyra Tisoni watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and horror. "We have to do something," she said to her team. "That artifact could be the key to ending this conflict before it engulfs the entire galaxy." As Lyra and her team raced to secure the human artifact, a new player entered the fray. A massive ship, dwarfing even the Galactic Peacekeeping Force's flagship, emerged from the shadow of Eden Prime's largest moon. "This is Aria," a synthetic voice boomed across all frequencies. "Cease hostilities immediately. We have much to discuss." The sudden appearance of the Eyes vessel gave everyone pause. Even Captain Zorn, his scales bristling with indignation, couldn't ignore the technological superiority displayed before him. Sarah saw her opportunity. "All human forces, stand down." "Captain Zorn." "Drekthar, I propose a temporary ceasefire. Let's meet on the surface and discuss this like civilized beings." After tense negotiations, representatives from each faction agreed to convene at the excavation site where Dr. Tisoni had made her discovery. As shuttles descended through Eden Prime's atmosphere, the weight of history pressed down on all involved. Sarah Chen was the first to step out onto the planet's surface, her combat armor gleaming in the alien sun. She was flanked by a small contingent of human soldiers, their weapons lowered but ready. Captain Zorn emerged next, his massive form towering over the others. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he surveyed the humans, centuries of ingrained fear and hatred barely contained. Drekthar slithered out of his shuttle, mandibles clicking nervously. The Carthalian bounty hunter found himself in a situation far more complex than he had bargained for. Dr. Lyra Tisoni approached the group, the artifact clutched protectively against her chest. Her blue skin shimmered with a biotic field, ready to defend herself if necessary. Lastly, a figure seemed to coalesce out of thin air, a humanoid form that shifted and changed like smoke. The curator had arrived, with a nervous Kale at its side. As the representatives faced each other, the air crackled with tension. Millennia of myths, legends, and misconceptions stood between them. Sarah took a step forward, her voice clear and strong. "I know you have questions, fears, doubts. So do we. But right now, we face a threat greater than our differences. The artifact Dr. Tisoni discovered is more than just a map or a key. It's a warning." She gestured to the curator, who nodded and began to speak, its voice a melodious whisper that somehow carried to all present. "Long ago, humanity faced a threat so great it nearly wiped us from existence. We called them the Harvesters. They moved from galaxy to galaxy, consuming all sentient life before moving on. We went into hiding not out of cowardice, but to prepare, to be ready when they returned." Captain Zorn's scales rippled with disbelief. "Preposterous. We would have detected such a threat." The curator's form shimmered. "Would you? When your civilization was still learning to harness fire. The Harvesters were already ancient. Their technology, their methods of concealment, they're beyond your comprehension." Dr. Tisoni stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "The artifact. It's not just a map to human bases, is it? It's a prediction of when and where the Harvesters will return." Sarah nodded grimly. "Exactly. And according to our calculations, we don't have much time. The galaxy needs to unite, to prepare, or we'll all face extinction." A heavy silence fell over the group as the implications sank in. Centuries of mistrust and fear couldn't be erased in a moment, but the scale of the threat forced them to reconsider their positions. Captain Zorn was the first to break the silence. "Even if what you say is true, how can we trust you? How do we know this isn't some elaborate ploy to regain power?" Sarah's eyes met Zorn's, unflinching. "You don't. But ask yourself this. What do we gain by lying? We've hidden successfully for 10,000 years. Why reveal ourselves now, if not for a greater purpose?" As the leaders debated, tensions among their forces began to ease. Soldiers from different factions, drawn by curiosity, started to mingle. Humans shared ration packs with alien mercenaries. Dr. Tisoni engaged in an animated discussion about the artifact with Lieutenant Malik. Kale, emboldened by the curator's presence, slithered forward. I have something," he said, his voice quavering. He produced the data chip Nera had given him in her final moments. "It's a message. From the humans who lived on Zephyria thousands of years ago. I think you all need to see it." As Cal's chip was connected to a portable holoprojector, the gathered representatives watched in awe as history unfolded before them. The message spoke of unity, of a shared struggle against an implacable foe. It painted a picture not of humanity as conquerors, but as guardians, a species that had sacrificed everything to give the galaxy a fighting chance. As the message faded, a new silence fell, one of contemplation rather than tension. Drekthar, who had remained quiet until now, suddenly chittered with laughter. "Well," he said, mandibles clicking in amusement, "it seems the greatest hunt of my career has turned into something far more interesting." Captain Zorn's reptilian features softened almost imperceptibly. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgments." Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a beginning. "Then let's talk," she said. "Really talk. About the past, the present, and most importantly, our shared future." As the representatives of various species began to engage in genuine dialogue, news of the encounter spread across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of all kinds looked to the skies with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The legend of humanity had become reality, and with it came the promise of salvation and the threat of annihilation. The galaxy stood on the precipice of a new era, one that would be defined by how they faced this challenge together. As night fell on Eden Prime, the first seeds of an unprecedented alliance were sown. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as harbingers of a truth too big to face alone. The real test was yet to come, but for the first time in millennia, there was hope for a truly united galaxy. The first contact had been made. Now, the real work would begin. In the weeks following the historic first contact on Eden Prime, the galaxy buzzed with activity. The revelation of humanity's return and the looming threat of the Harvesters had sent shockwaves through every level of galactic society. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council chambers had been transformed into a hive of frenetic energy as representatives from countless species worked to forge an unprecedented alliance. Colonel Sarah Chen stood before the assembled delegates, her posture rigid but her eyes blazing with determination. The threat we face is unlike anything this galaxy has encountered in recorded history, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. The Harvesters don't just destroy civilizations, they erase them from existence. We need more than just a military alliance. We need to combine our knowledge, our technologies, our very ways of thinking, if we're to have any hope of survival. Captain Zorn, now acting as the liaison between the Galactic Peacekeeping Force and the Nascent Alliance, nodded grudgingly. The human speaks truth. Our long-range scouts have detected anomalies at the edge of the galaxy, consistent with the warnings in the Eden Prime artifact. We don't have the luxury of doubt anymore. As murmurs rippled through the assembly, Dr. Lyra T. Sony stepped forward, her blue skin shimmering under the chamber's lights. I've been working with human scientists to decipher more of the artifact's warnings, she said, activating a holographic display. We believe we've pinpointed the first systems the Harvesters will target. If we act now, we might be able to set up an early warning network. The curator, its form shimmering at the edges, added its melodious voice to the discussion. But a warning alone won't be enough. We need weapons capable of harming the Harvesters, shields that can withstand their attacks. No single species has the knowledge or resources to develop these in time. It was at this moment that humanity's unique strengths began to shine. Lieutenant Ravi Malik, who had been quietly working with a diverse team of alien engineers, cleared his throat. "If I may," he said, his voice hesitant but gaining confidence as he spoke. "We've been analyzing the combined technological databases of all represented species. There's a pattern emerging, gaps in one species' knowledge that are filled by another's innovations. If we can integrate these technologies." He trailed off as he activated his own holographic display, showing schematics for weapons and defenses unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as delegates recognized elements of their own technologies combined in ways they had never imagined. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. This was what humanity did best: adapt, innovate, find connections where others saw only disparate parts. It was why they had survived the first Harvester attack, and it might just be the key to saving the galaxy this time. But not everyone was convinced. Groknak, the Kroth representative, slammed his massive fist on the table. "Pretty drawings won't stop the Harvesters," he roared. "We need action, not more talk." Before the situation could escalate, an unexpected voice cut through the tension. Drekthar, the Carthalian bounty hunter who had somehow managed to secure a place in these proceedings, chittered loudly. "You want action? I'll give you action. My network of contacts spans the galaxy. We can start setting up your early warning beacons tomorrow, and I know places to test these new weapons where even the peacekeepers fear to tread." The offer took many by surprise, but Sarah recognized it for what it was: a chance to turn words into deeds. "We accept," she said firmly, locking eyes with Drekthar. "But we'll need more than just hidden bases and weapon tests. We need to start preparing civilian populations, organizing evacuation plans for vulnerable systems." As the Council debated the logistics of such a massive undertaking, Aria's synthetic voice echoed through the chamber. "I have been analyzing the combined knowledge of all species present, as well as the warnings contained in the Eden Prime artifact. There is a 78.3% probability that our current efforts, while commendable, will be insufficient to repel a full-scale Harvester invasion." A hush fell over the assembly. Aria continued, its tone somehow conveying urgency despite its artificial nature. However, I have identified a potential solution. There are references in multiple species' ancient texts to a superweapon of immense power, created by an even more ancient race. If we could locate and reactivate this weapon, our odds of success increase significantly. The revelation sparked a new round of heated discussion. Some delegates argued that chasing legends was a waste of precious time and resources. Others saw it as their best hope for survival. As the debate raged, Sarah found herself drawn into a quiet conversation with the curator. "You knew about this weapon, didn't you?" she asked, her voice low. The curator's form rippled, a sign Sarah had come to recognize as discomfort. "I suspected," it admitted, "but the risks of seeking it out are immense. The weapon's power could easily be turned against us, or worse, alert the harvesters to our preparations." Sarah's eyes hardened. "We don't have the luxury of playing it safe. If there's even a chance this weapon exists, we need to find it." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the council chambers. Lieutenant Malik rushed to Sarah's side, his face pale. "Colonel, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim. A small farming colony. It's gone. Not destroyed. There's no debris, no evidence it ever existed. It's as if it was harvested." The news sent a chill through the chamber. The threat was no longer a distant possibility. It was here, now, and it was hungry. Sarah Chen stood tall, her voice ringing out over the panicked murmurs. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. We can give in to fear, or we can stand and fight. Humanity has faced the darkness before, and we're still here. Together, united with the incredible species of this galaxy, we can do more than just survive. We can triumph." Her words seemed to awaken something in the assembled delegates. Groknak, the warlike Kroth, let out a bellow of approval. Dr. Tusoni's eyes shone with determination. Even Captain Zorn nodded, a newfound respect visible in his reptilian gaze. "To your stations," Sarah commanded. "Every moment counts. Lieutenant Malik, coordinate with Prekthar to get those early warning beacons deployed. Dr. Tusoni, I want you working with ARIA to track down every reference to that superweapon. Captain Zorn, begin mobilizing the peacekeeping force for evacuation and defense of vulnerable systems." As the chamber emptied, delegates rushing to carry out their tasks, Sarah found herself alone with the curator. "You've done well," the enigmatic being said softly. "But the true test is yet to come." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We'll be ready. Humanity has spent 10,000 years preparing for this moment. We won't let the galaxy fall." As they looked out over the glittering expanse of Nexus Prime, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and exhilaration. The alliance was formed, tenuous though it might be. Now came the real challenge, forging this diverse group of species into a force capable of facing the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. In hidden shipyards across the galaxy, new vessels were already taking shape, incorporating technologies from a dozen different species. On countless worlds, civilians began to train and prepare, ancient rivalries set aside in the face of extinction. And in the vast depths of space, the first early warning beacons winked to life, their sensors straining to detect the approach of a terror older than civilization itself. The legend of humanity had become a rallying cry, a beacon of hope in the darkness. But as the first reports of missing ships and silent colonies trickled in, Sarah Chen knew that legends alone wouldn't be enough. They needed miracles, and they needed them soon. The Alliance was born. Now it was time to see if it could survive its baptism by fire. The vastness of space was shattered by the fierce glow of energy weapons and the silent explosions of ships torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. The united fleet of the Galactic Alliance, a patchwork armada of vessels from 100 different species, faced off against the nightmarish forms of the harvester ships. On the bridge of the flagship Phoenix, now heavily modified with technology from across the galaxy, Colonel Sarah Chen gripped her command chair. The view screen before her showed a battle unlike any in recorded history. a desperate last stand against an enemy that threatened not just to conquer, but to erase. "Status report," Sarah barked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lieutenant Malik, his console sparking from a recent hit, responded quickly. "Shields at 62% and holding. The Kroth battle group is taking heavy losses on our flank, but they're buying time for the Aethery to get their psionic disruptors in range." Sarah nodded grimly. The battle plan they'd formulated was complex, relying on the unique strengths of each species. It had to work. There was no plan B. "What's the status on the superweapon?" she asked, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Dr. Lyra, Tassoni's voice came through the comm, strained but determined. "We're close, Colonel. The ancient texts weren't clear, but we think we've figured out the activation sequence. We just need more time." Time was the one thing they were rapidly running out of. The Harvester fleet seemed endless, each destroyed ship replaced by two more emerging from the inky blackness of space. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the comm chatter. The gravelly tones of Drekthar. "This is the Shadow Dancer, reporting in. My team has managed to board one of the smaller Harvester ships. You won't believe what we're seeing in here." Before Sarah could respond, the ship rocked violently. Captain Zorn's face appeared on a side screen, his scales pale with exertion. "Chen, we can't hold this position much longer. The Harvesters are targeting our command ships. They're learning, adapting to our tactics." Sarah's mind raced. They needed something to turn the tide, and fast. "Drekthar," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "What exactly are you seeing?" The Carthalian's response was filled with a mix of awe and revulsion. It's like a hive in here. But not just one species. I'm seeing remnants of civilizations we thought long dead. It's as if they're harvesting more than just resources. They're taking entire cultures, preserving them somehow." A chill ran down Sarah's spine as the implications hit her. "They're not just destroying," she whispered. "They're collecting, cataloging." The curator's voice, normally so melodious, crackled with static as it cut in. "Of course. It makes sense now. The Harvesters aren't mindless destroyers. They're archivists of a sort, preserving the essence of civilizations before wiping them from existence." A plan began to form in Sarah's mind. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. "Drekthar, can you access their central systems from there?" "Already working on it," the bounty hunter chittered. "But their tech is like nothing I've ever seen. It'll take time to crack." "Time we don't have," Sarah muttered. She took a deep breath, then opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Colonel Chen. Execute Protocol Omega. I repeat, execute Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega was a last-ditch strategy they had developed, one that required perfect coordination between all allied species. As Sarah watched, the battle lines began to shift. Ships moved in intricate patterns, forming layered defenses and coordinated attack vectors that seemed to flow like water. The Harvester fleet, for the first time, seemed to hesitate. Their previously unstoppable advance faltered as they encountered tactics and technologies they couldn't immediately counter. "It's working," Lieutenant Malik breathed, a note of hope in his voice. "We're actually pushing them back." But Sarah knew it wouldn't last. The Harvesters were already adapting, probing for weaknesses in their new formation. They needed their ace in the hole, and they needed it now. "Dr. Tassoni," Sarah called out, "we're out of time. The superweapon, it's now or never." Lyra's voice came back, tight with tension. "We're ready, but Colonel, we don't know exactly what this will do. The power readings are off the charts." Sarah closed her eyes for a brief moment. The weight of the entire galaxy rested on this decision. "Do it," she said softly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Deep in the heart of a dead star, where Lyra and her team had discovered the ancient superweapon, energy began to build. It started as a faint pulse, barely detectable. Then it grew, faster and faster, until the very fabric of space-time began to warp around it. On the Phoenix's view screen, Sarah watched in awe as a wave of energy, unlike anything she had ever seen, burst forth from the star. It washed over the battlefield, passing harmlessly through the Allied fleet, but enveloping the harvester ships in a shimmering field. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the harvester ships began to power down. Their lights flickered and died, their weapons fell silent, and their hulls drifted lifelessly in space. What just happened? Captain Zorn's voice was filled with disbelief. The curator's form shimmered into existence on the bridge, its ever-shifting features settling into an expression of wonder. The weapon, it didn't destroy them. It communicated with them. As if in response to the curator's words, a new signal began broadcasting across all frequencies. It was unlike any language Sarah had ever heard, yet somehow she understood its meaning. The harvesters, it seemed, were not the mindless destroyers they had believed. They were the last remnants of a civilization so ancient it predated the very concept of galaxies. Their mission, twisted by eons of existence, had been to preserve the essence of all life before the heat death of the universe could erase it forever. The superweapon hadn't defeated them. It had awakened them, reminded them of their original purpose before time and isolation had corrupted their goals. As the Allied fleet watched in stunned silence, the harvester ships began to transform. Their nightmarish forms shifted and changed, becoming something new, something that spoke of creation rather than destruction. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Sarah Chen stood up, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "This isn't the end," she said softly. "It's a new beginning." The curator nodded, its form rippling with barely contained excitement. "Indeed, the galaxy stands on the brink of a new era, one where the combined knowledge and cultures of countless civilizations can be shared and celebrated, rather than erased." As news of the battle's outcomes spread across the galaxy, celebrations erupted on countless worlds. Species that had been bitter enemies mere months ago now embraced as brothers in arms. The threat that had loomed over them for so long had been transformed into an opportunity for growth and understanding. But Sarah knew their work was far from over. Integrating the harvesters, or whatever they would choose to call themselves now, into galactic society would be a monumental task. There were wounds to heal, trust to build, and a million questions still unanswered. As the Phoenix led the Allied fleet back towards the core worlds, Sarah found herself standing next to Captain Zorn. The reptilian warrior regarded her with a mix of respect and lingering wariness. "So, human," he said gruffly, "it seems the legends about your species were true after all." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Some of them, perhaps, but I think we've all learned that legends are just the beginning. It's what we do with them that truly matters." As they looked out at the stars, now filled with promise rather than dread, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had returned from the brink of extinction, not to conquer, but to unite. They had faced their greatest fear and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The legend of humanity had evolved. No longer were they just the survivors, the hidden guardians. Now, they were the bridge between past and future, between destruction and creation. As the galaxy stood poised on the brink of a new age of exploration and understanding, Sarah Chen knew that the greatest adventures and challenges still lay ahead. The reckoning had come, but it had brought not an end, but a new beginning. And humanity, along with all the species of the galaxy, would face it together.